Hello and welcome to installment 3 of Shadow Wings Rants. Today's going to be a long one. The reason why it's going to be a long one is because I have a lot to talk about. Today we will be talking about the psychiatric status quo, institutionalization, and the forced feeling of helplessness, i.e., institutionalization, and the effect it has on a person, as in institutional helplessness. All of these things are my opinion, but I also base them on real life experiences. Experiences that have happened to me and people that are very close to myself as well. So let's begin, shall we? We will start with the mental health structure. Mental health structure is basically a team of doctors that sits down and writes a book. In this book are axes, diagnostics. It's a diagnostic book. If you fill this many axes, you have this. Okay, that's great. It's dual. I have no problem with duals. But instead of calling it the psychiatric diagnostic and axes manual, they should rename the book to I Think You Got This. The reason is that psychiatric medicine as a branch of medicine is basically, well, I'm the doctor, I think you got this, so I'm going to medicate you for this. I'm giving you a second to let that sink in. And the reason this is evident is because, well, if you've ever gone and done any type of psychological evaluation, they ask you questions. And they rely on the patient being honest. Now, my question is if you have a patient that's been diagnosed with pathological lying, how can you take into account anything they say as honest? Again, giving you a few seconds to let that sink in. So, therefore, the intrinsic system of diagnosing mental illnesses is therefore flawed because it all hinges on basically the patient telling you what's wrong with them. Okay. I hear you. You're saying shadowing, but pediatricians do the same thing. Wrong. Pediatricians are diagnosticians. They look at the physical and diagnose. Mental health providers, i.e., psychologists and psychiatrists, look at the mental. Since you can't actually see a mental health imbalance or chemical imbalance in the brain without very specialized equipment, and I guarantee you, no mental health clinic, doctor, or institution has these specialized equipment because they're still in beta phase. They have to rely on the archaic method of basically getting the person to talk or drugging the shit out of them. Which do you think is more prevalent? I'll give you a second. Okay, I'm going to answer the question for you. They drug the shit out of you. Back in the late 40s, early 50s, most psychiatric hospitals, i.e., big hospitals that house multiple hundreds of people and different levels of secureness, had an epidemic known as the Thorazine Shuffle. Now, the Thorazine shuffle is quite unique in its variant because everybody that suffered from the Thorazine shuffle was on Thorazine. No surprise there, it's literally named after the drug they're on. But did the FDA ban it? Nope. Thorazine is still prescribed today, as is stelazine and compazine. Compazine used in a slightly different manner. It's given to pregnant women to help with upset stomach. Wait, but doesn't it say on the drug warning, do not give to pregnant or breastfeeding women? Yeah, we'll get back to that. Thorazine basically turns you into think Walking Dead. I mean, you still have bodily functions, you still eat, you still urinate, defecate, but when you're under the effects of Thorazine, you really don't care where you do it. You could be sitting on a chair, have to take a crap, instead of getting up like any other individual in the world, getting up and using the bathroom. No, you just sit in the chair and shit yourself. And if you take a piss, same thing. Now, granted, since that time, mental health has gotten better. They have instituted various subsets of mental health, one of which is called the Certified Peer Specialist. Relatively new thing. Started in it's the first peer specialists were actually created in Georgia, and they based their entire existence on a manual made by a woman called Mary Ellen Copeland out of the Copeland Center, and it is the textbook on being a peer specialist. If you go through the peer specialist training, you'll learn about it, and you'll learn the textbooks. It's a 3-inch, 3-ring binder that's literally bursting at the seams with great information that's been around for 200 years. Like, oh, we're going to now talk, you know, reward motivation and call it Coke and Smoke. Now I'm about to offend every peer specialist out there because I myself took the training and I dramatically found it lacking. And the reason why I found it lacking is the entire core of peer specialist training is to share your experience, strength, and hope and relate to the person that you are trying to serve. Well, guess what? A person with paranoid schizophrenia getting these talks from a person with manic depression disorder. The person with manic depression disorder has no fucking idea what the person with paranoid schizophrenia is going through. And therefore, by the very nature of, again, the certified peer specialist training, should not in any way, shape, or form give any type of advice, counsel, experience, strength, or hope because he don't know what the fuck he's talking about. How can you adequately relate to someone when you have no idea what you're talking about? That's like a man trying to say, "Oh, don't worry, baby. I know what it's like to give birth." The woman's going to look at you like you're a damn idiot, probably get up off the birthing table, kick the fuck out of you, and then break every bone in your body because you have no idea what it's like to push a watermelon out of your vagina. One, because you don't fucking have one, and the pain associated with it. My wife gave birth. I have no idea what she went through. I knew it had to be painful, but as for the amount of pain, no clue. No idea. Nor did I try to relate to it. And yeah, I'm a little testy about this is because these so-called peer specialists are supposed to be oh so good for the mental health field. And the peer specialist training is supposed to be the archetype to create the new wave of mental health providers and all this shit. Okay. I don't know if most of what's in a peer specialist textbook or handbook or whatever you want to call it is copyright. I'm going to assume it's not, and I'm going to go over various pieces with you. And if it is, I'll fight a copyright claim because they commonly teach it to various people, and you can't expect people not to talk about it. One of the facets of the peer specialist training, and I believe one of the core concepts that they live and die by is something called RAP. There, I said it. RAP is an acronym for Wellness Recovery Action Plan. Where have I heard this before? I'll leave that question stowing with you for a moment or three. And not only learning about RAP during the peer specialist training is sufficient. No, no, no. You must take the RAP facilitators training in order to facilitate trainings or teach about RAP. Now, since I am trying to do neither of these things and giving you my opinion on said documentation, I do not have to worry about it. I'm not telling you to go out and learn RAP. I find it honestly and in my own life completely fucking useless. But again, that's my opinion. Now, Wellness Recovery Action Plan, they want you to write this when you are not feeling well. Oh, great. We're going to write something when we basically feel like blowing our brains out. Sure, that can't fail. They want you to write this when you're going through every conceivable angst and symptom of your illness. Okay, yeah. And the reasoning behind they want you to do this is so that you know what to do the next time you don't feel well. Well, that shit don't help me now. And yeah, I'm rather vocal on this because I don't believe that it should be mandatory to take this in a peer specialist training. And the blanket statement by the creator of rap that it works for everyone is false. And when I tried to post this on the comment section on the Mary Ellen Copeland Center's website, I was banned in perpetuity from the website. I have the distinction of being the only person ever banned in perpetuity from the website. So we've covered 4 points of beer specialist training, and all four of them are kind of redundant because if you're going to stick a person with depression with a person who has psychotic episodes, that person with depression has absolutely no idea what the person with psychotic episodes is feeling. So, how can they even remotely equate to their ailment? The answer is quite simple, they can't. Okay, moving on. Let's get back to institutionalization. Institutionalization is the process by which you come to rely on an institution or governing body to do everything for you. If you're in prison, you become institutionalized. If you go into a mental health facility, you become institutionalized. If you go into the military, you become institutionalized. The institution is all that matters. Institutionalization happens. You really can't stop it simply by the nature of the institution. Okay, that being said, how do you deinstitutionalize a person? Well, by myself being institutionalized, deinstitutionalized by getting back out into society and fulfilling a role within said society. It doesn't matter the role. I've just solved psychiatric institutionalization for the past 200 years in a sentence. Some of the smartest people in the world with psychiatric degrees have been batting this issue around for 200 years. Yes, we've come a long way from the area of Freudian psychology, who was considered by many in the field of psychiatry to be the father of modern psychiatry. Let me let you in on a little secret. Freud wanted to fuck his mom. It's a very well known fact. You can look it up on the internet. He coined the phrase the Oedipus complex because of an ancient Greek named Oedipus Rex. Oedipus Rex was convicted and killed for incest in the Roman Empire. Why? No clue, because incest was rampant in the Roman Empire. But, it was all hush hush, do it behind closed doors. Freud, on the other hand, brought incest to psychiatry. Incest to psychiatry. Every one of his diagnoses that he made over the years that he was a practicing psychiatrist had something to do with fucking a member of your family. Yeah. I am so glad I don't live in that date and time and era because there's no way in fucking hell I would want to screw my mother. Sorry, no. All right, let me go back to institutionalization. Wow. You getting enough of this down? You writing this down? Probably not. You're probably just sitting there like, oh my god, this guy is insane. Yeah, probably. Probably the first one to actually say how I feel about the art of psychiatry. I'll sum it up in two words. Two words to explain the art, well, three actually, if you want to nitpick, to explain the art of psychiatry. Here they are. Here are the words to explain, in my opinion, the art of psychiatry. It's a joke. And for those of you who don't believe I just said that, I'll say it again. Three words to explain the art of psychiatry. It's a joke. And the reason why I say this is because for psychiatry to have any positive impact on a person's life, the person has to go into a psychiatric evaluation with the predisposition of being completely and 100% honest. Not going to happen. And on top of that, the person has to even realize that there's something wrong with them that needs psychiatric attention. Not going to happen. So, what did they do? They put you in a broad categorical bin and say, we don't know what the fuck's wrong with you, so we're going to medicate you for everything. And then all of a sudden, you're on about 287 different types of medication. And you're saying, how the hell did this happen? Do you feel better? No, probably not, because psychotropic drugs are mean. They are nasty. They are the worst drugs to ever come about. Now, I'm pretty sure I can go ask Thunderfoot, who happens to be a scientist, to break down and explain to me the chemical composition of the drug lithium carbonate, i.e., known as Lithobid. Yes, it actually has lithium in it. And I always thought, and of course, correct me if I am wrong, I thought lithium was a radioactive isotope. Now, we've covered institutionalization and how to get people out of institutionalization. Very simply, give them a role in society, which they do on a regular basis. Doesn't have to be a big role, it can be a menial role. Raking the lawn. And you will eventually break the institutionalization. They will become reintegrated within society. Now, supposedly, this is the mission statement for every facet of psychological evaluation treatment. They've supposedly went to a recovery model. I call bullshit on this because if they went to a recovery model, institutions such as lockdown CRRs, lockdown institutions such as state universities with a lockdown ward would cease to exist. You cannot recover while being in a state of perpetual lockdown. And I know what you're going to say, but shadowing, what about those people who are deemed criminally insane? Criminally insane has literally no bearing anywhere in the psychological world. Criminally insane was coined by a lawyer, is thus a legal phrase used in court, not in psychology. If a psychiatrist utters the word to a patient, you are criminally insane, they will be fired. I know this for a fact because I have gotten psychiatrists fired for telling me I am criminally insane. Now, moving on. Let's go over one of the so called catches in psychology, the suicide hotline. It's completely useless. I mean, suicide hotline, useless. Should not exist, is completely useless. And here's why. Suicide If someone really wants to commit suicide, kill themselves, they're not going to tell anyone. Yes, they may leave a note or a time released email if they're tech savvy or something of that nature. But the next time you have correspondence with somebody who really wants to commit suicide, they will be dead. Then you're going to say, oh, but shadowing, how can that possibly be right when the suicide hotline reports saving thousands of people a year? They don't save shit. All they do is take John and talk to him. That's it. Because John didn't want to commit suicide, he just used that because he wanted somebody to talk to. And anybody that tells me, comes on my channel and tells me, oh, the suicide hotline saved my life, bullshit. And I will call bullshit on that all fucking day and night forever. And the reason is because you called the suicide hotline because you wanted to be talked out of committing suicide. You had no intention whatsoever of committing suicide. So don't piss down my fucking back and tell me that the suicide hotline and its useless bunch of fucking volunteer nerds helped you. Bullshit. If you have a problem with that, go call the suicide fucking hotline. 'Cause I don't give a fuck. And I know you're saying, oh, you're hard. You're hard on people like that. Yeah, because I don't like people who lie to themselves. I'm very hard on that shit. If you're going to lie to yourself, don't lie to me. Now, the next topic we're going to cover is helplessness, which goes hand in hand with institutionalization. And this should be the goal that mental health wants to basically, the goal of mental health should be to eradicate this. Because if they eradicate this, recovery is possible. As long as helplessness still exists, true recovery for the masses, not the individual, the masses, will never be possible. Helplessness is this: it's when you become so complacent, comfortable on everybody doing something for you is that you no longer know how to do for yourself. I am damn sure not going to wipe the ass of some fucking 55-year-old man because he's complacent with somebody doing it fucking for him. No, there's toilet paper, here's your hand, go fucking wipe your ass. And here's what I hear: I don't know how. And this is when I get upset. No, I'm not upset at the moment. But this is when I get upset. You're 55 fucking years old, and you don't know how to wipe shit off of the crack of your ass. Lived experience. This is why I no longer work as a certified peer specialist. Because of these things. And I know, everybody says, oh, you can easier change things from the inside than you can the out. No, 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 that's false. That's very much false. And the reason why it's false is because I got that CRR and an entire string of CRRs by that company. Shut the fuck down the day I quit. All right. Enforced helplessness. is the action by which an institution enforces the state of helplessness upon the person to make them rely on the institution for everything. It should be illegal. But see, even though the government has institutions set up to monitor mental health, companies, corporations, hospitals, institutions, and the list goes on. The only thing these moderators care about is if your paperwork is in order. Now, no, I'm not reading this from a teleprompter. I don't do that. I just talk from the heart and from what I have seen in my own life based on these topics. One of the most grotesque versions of forced institutionalism was when I walked into a building. I won't name anything or give away company names or anything like that, but they know who they are. And I had to go back outside and use Vicks Vapor Rub and put it under my nose because the smell was so horrible. They had a gentleman who weighed at his max 1,850 pounds, locked in a room, alone, with no bathroom, no sink, no sanitation of any kind, eating 3-day old rotten food because they only fed him every 3 days. And then lied to this gentleman's family and said that, oh, you can't see him at the moment because he has been deemed a threat to everyone around him. Yeah, that's enforced institutional. That's enforced helplessness at its worst. And the only way this is going to change, the only way that this dogma, this stigmata in the mental health field is going to change is if people like me stand up and say, well, you know what, it's got to change. It's taken 200 years for us to get away from blaming all mental health problem on a desire and need to fuck a family member. It's taken us 75 years to get away from the generalized electroshock therapy. Then it was called, ever so politely, electroconvulsive therapy, which, by the way, they still use in modern psychiatric medication because they actually believe that sending 500,000 volts of electricity through a person's brain is somehow magically going to completely cure that person. And how many people died because of it? Psychiatry should not be considered a field of medicine. Psychiatry should be a field in where once you get a degree, you can prescribe medicine to treat something that you think may be there. It should be considered a pseudoscience. As if you take a normal doctor, say a surgeon, a heart surgeon, and put him in a psychiatrist's office, he's not going to know what the hell to do. In my opinion, psychiatry has built up such an edifice of lies and guesswork that it's going to take another 200 years for people to break it down and expose psychiatry and the entirety of the field of mental health for what it actually is. Now, like I said, this is going to be a little bit longer than my normal rant. And as I always say, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Whether you like this rant or you didn't agree with it at all, feel free to leave a comment. This is Shadowwing for Shadowwing's Rants. Have a great day.